Another fight camp begins. Coming off the controversial split decision of David Trujillo's fight, Kru Neil hopes to avoid the same result with his next fighter, Martin Duarte. Coming off a year layoff, can Martin shake off the rust and put MTK Gym back into the win column?
My name is Martin Duarte. I started fighting about 2 years ago. I've had already about 4 fights. My last fight, I lost by split decision towards a really good opponent. Now I'm bouncing back after a year hiatus, get back up in that ring and, start getting my record going.
The difference between Martin and David, you can't really compare the two. They both have the same exact amount of experience. They both started fighting around the same time frame. They're two different styles of fighters, and that's something I always have to take into consideration. I can't train everyone the same way. There's no cookie cutter recipe like, oh, I can use this recipe to train all my fighters. It doesn't work like that. Everyone has a different style. People that know me, my previous fighters and current fighters, they know I'm really big on 2 things, defense and footwork. Those 2 things all my fighters need to possess in order to fight, because I am that coach that will pull a fighter from a fight if they're not defending themselves.
I was on a hiatus mainly to focus on my coaching, just to make sure I keep it sharp on coaching, and I know coaching helps a lot within fighting. Taking a year off was basically, it wasn't really intended that way, it just played out that way. I do have a family, I'm a family man, and I do want to spend time with my family. And then my first fight wasn't brought up to me until now.
What I learned from David's fight that I want to carry into Martin's fight, letting my fighters understand the concept of, like, you can't let people hit you for free. I was always taught, if they hit you once, you got to hit them twice. If you keep maintaining that rule of thumb, you will always win every fight, because at the end of the day, you'll have more accumulative damage, more accumulated points scored on your opponent, because you're always outworking them. You got to go into a fight, you have to dominate. You have to show the judges that no matter what, they cannot give it to the other guy, because it's just so clear-sighted that our fighter has won, has completely dominated their opponent. And it starts with you getting hit once, you hit him back at least twice.
Cornering David, definitely I got to see the aspect from a coach perspective, where to actually keep the gas going. There was a lot of time where, my boy started off really strong, handling really well, and then as soon as he let off the gas a little bit, I noticed things started happening towards him, and that's when I realized when you're fighting your opponent, you can't really give them too much range, because once you start giving them range, they start taking flight on you, and then eventually you start losing by points. Just did my first day of camp, and it was amazing. I mean, got a lot of things to work on. Definitely breathing is one of them, and the other is making sure I keep my high and tight, nice and tight.
In his last fight, I noticed he gassed out very quickly. His hands were down, not setting up his kicks. He's literally just throwing his kicks. He's missing, he's maybe getting caught with punches. So those are things that I really need him to clean up. I'm gonna work on that with him. I want him to also work on standing his ground and putting pressure on. I've seen him numerous times try to accommodate like a lot of extra footwork that's unnecessary, and at the end of the day, it gasses him out, and I don't wanna see him do that. He's performed so much better. It's just not his style. His style is standing his ground and pressuring for it. That's the way I've always seen him be his best.
I've never been a sore loser. I look at it as a learning curve. So if I were to lose, I look at where I was weak at, and I try to make it my strong suit. I try to really isolate that and really practice it as much as possible. The way I lost in my last fight, I ended up doing what I wanted to do instead of sticking to the plan. And that's what ended up me giving up my fight. If I would have stuck with the plan, I could have definitely taken that fight for sure. That would have been all me. I drifted off the road and That's how I ended up losing my split decision.
Day one into Martin's fight camp.
My strength today was when I was holding my ground and staying inside the pocket. I was continuously trading shots and being able to counter right away as soon as I got hit. And also my defense was a lot sharper when I was inside the pocket.
Tonight I was very unhappy. I was very disappointed with Martin's performance. He looks one way on pads, very technical, very sharp, but then in sparring, it like goes out the door. I know what he's capable of. It hurts me to see him not apply what he really genuinely knows. He's not breathing. He's gassing out. He was gassing out in the second round of us just doing basic drills to warm each other up.
Things that I need to work on is when I'm kicking, not to drop my hands. That's definitely one thing.
Things I didn't like, him not keeping his hands up when he was kicking. So I was asking his sparring partners to take advantage of that when they saw it. Throw punches while he's kicking. Don't worry about blocking his kick, just punch him in the face, because that will help me help Martin so he stops doing it.
Everything else, I'm pretty solid.
It's just gonna be a lot of drilling. It's gonna be a lot of me maybe tweaking certain techniques he can only use.
I know my punch game's there. Definitely setting up everything with the hands is the main key, and not letting off the gas.
He needs to stand his ground more. He was moving way too much, wasting a lot of energy trying to move away from his partners. His partners just kept pressuring him and gassing him out even more. I told him and his group, I said, he had some members in his fight camp that had just finished doing a class with another coach. I expected them to be more gassed coming right into a fight camp. But it was actually, he was being more gassed. Martin was being gassed after just teaching a grappling class. And that was one thing I didn't like, so I addressed that to him. Martin's great is because I can be straightforward with him. He doesn't get his feelings hurt. He understands I do it out of care.
Being in good shape is just maintaining. Fight shape is beyond maintaining. Your cardio has to be through the roof. You have to be able to breathe. You have to be able to connect your mind with your breathing and making sure you're consistently getting air. Otherwise, if you're not thoughtful of that, that's an easy lose. You'll end up getting knocked out, or you'll just gas out and just give up your back most of the time, and that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to give up. Everything else will fall into place once your cardio's there.
In order for him to improve his stamina, he's got to make sure he's doing the road work, he's doing the running, he's doing his sprints. But I think mainly it's his breathing. Honestly, he's in great shape, but his breathing is not consistent, and so that's what gasses him out so quickly. He's a hard worker. I know Martin will do the things that he needs to do. He's very coachable too. He listens, but it's a matter of his breathing, to be honest. His breathing messes everything up. To improve my cardio, swimming, running, and sprinting. Anytime that I have downtime, do at least 10 to 15 minutes of jump rope. With, a basic 3-rounder, it's an amateur bout, you could get away with running 3 miles. During those 3 miles, I like my fighters to sprint, maybe a certain amount of yardage. They should be running literally 5 to 6 days a week. I'm all about people cross-training and doing, biking, swimming, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're not breathing properly, you will not be in any good shape. It all comes down to breathing, and that's something that has definitely been one of his major flaws that we're still working on. He's definitely improved in that, but there's still a long way for him to go. As each day, as each week passes, we're gonna see if that improves or not.